It's 2:37 a.m., your phone's buzzing on the nightstand. You know you shouldn't, but you glance at the screen. Unknown number. But something makes you answer it. You bring the phone to your ear and all you hear is silence. Then a whisper, so faint you can barely make it out. Welcome to Unsolved Midnight Mysteries. Tonight we delve into the most chilling phone calls ever made, calls shrouded in mystery and steeped in terror. Our first story takes us to the sleepy suburbs of Ohio, where one late summer night in 2007, a young woman named Kristen received a call that would turn her blood to ice. Picture this. It's just past midnight, the air is thick with humidity, and Kristen is home alone, reading a book in bed. Suddenly, her landline rings, jolting her from her calm. She glances at the clock, sees the time, and feels a shiver crawl down her spine. No one ever calls that late unless it's an emergency. She picks up the phone, but before she can even utter a hello, a raspy voice on the other end whispers, "I can see you, Kristen." Fear, raw and immediate, seizes Kristen. She drops the phone as if it were burning, her heart hammering against her ribs. She scrambles out of bed and frantically searches for her cell phone. Shaking, she dials 911. The operator on the other end tries to calm her down, but Kristen's fear is palpable. While she's on the phone with the operator, her landline starts ringing again. The operator instructs her not to answer it. The police are on their way. The police arrive but find no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, no trace of the intruder except for the echo of Kristen's terror. The calls were untraceable. For weeks after the incident, Kristen lived in a perpetual state of fear. The calls stopped as abruptly as they started, but the trauma lingered, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved. Our next story takes us to a small town in rural Pennsylvania, where a man named Charles Peck became the unwilling recipient of calls from beyond the grave. Charles Peck was a beloved member of his community, known for his kindness and generosity. So, when he passed away in a tragic car accident, the town was devastated. Friends and family gathered for his funeral, sharing stories and offering condolences to his grieving widow Margaret. But little did they know that their mourning was about to take a sinister turn. A few days after the funeral, Margaret started receiving strange calls on her landline. The caller ID simply displayed Charles Peck, her deceased husband's name. At first, she thought it was a cruel prank, a morbid attempt to exploit her grief. But the calls persisted, and they were anything but random. The voice on the other end was muffled and distorted, but Margaret could have sworn it was Charles's voice whispering her name, asking for help. Sometimes the calls would come in the middle of the night, jolting her awake from a sound sleep. Other times they would occur in broad daylight, sending chills down her spine. Margaret wasn't the only one who received these calls. Charles's brother Tom also reported getting calls from Charles's number, even though the phone company confirmed that the line had been disconnected after his death. As the calls continued, they became more frequent, more insistent. The voice on the other end seemed to be growing stronger, more desperate. It was as if Charles was trapped somewhere, trying to reach out to his loved ones from beyond the veil. The police were called in to investigate, but they were baffled. The calls were untraceable, originating from a disconnected line. Theories ranged from elaborate hoaxes to cellular tower glitches, but none of them could fully explain the phenomenon. To this day, the calls of Charles Peck remain a mystery, a chilling reminder that sometimes, even death can't sever the ties that bind us. Chapter 3. The Babysitter and the Whispering Voice. Our next story takes us to the sun-drenched streets of Miami, Florida, where a young babysitter's worst nightmare unfolded one sweltering summer night. Imagine this: you're babysitting two young children in a sprawling, multi-story house. The parents are out for the night and the kids are fast asleep. You're downstairs trying to enjoy a quiet evening when the phone rings. You pick it up, expecting it to be the parents checking in, but the voice on the other end of the line sends a shiver down your spine. It's a hushed, raspy whisper, barely audible above the static, and it's coming from upstairs. The babysitter, a college student named Sarah, froze. Her heart pounded in her chest as she strained to make out the words. "Help me," the voice whispered. "They're coming." Sarah's mind raced. Who was they? And how was the voice coming from upstairs when the children were sound asleep in their beds? Fear propelled Sarah into action. She crept towards the stairs, her every sense on high alert. The house was eerily silent, except for the creaking of the floorboards beneath her feet, and the distant, muffled whispers that seemed to be coming from the children's room. As she reached the top of the stairs, she noticed that the door to the children's room was slightly ajar. Taking a deep breath, Sarah pushed the door open slowly, her heart pounding in her ears. The room was dark, illuminated only by the faint glow of the night light. The children were still fast asleep in their beds, their chests rising and falling rhythmically. But the whispering voice persisted. It seemed to be coming from the closet, a dark, looming presence in the corner of the room. Sarah's hand trembled as she reached for the doorknob. What if there was someone hiding inside? What if they were armed? Mustering all her courage, she flung open the closet door, expecting to find an intruder lurking in the shadows. But the closet was empty. There was nowhere for anyone to hide. Just as Sarah was about to dismiss the whispers as a figment of her imagination, she noticed something strange. The landline phone in the children's room, the one she had answered earlier, was off the hook. As she reached for the phone, the whispering voice intensified. It was closer now, right next to her ear. "Get out!" it hissed. "Get out now!" Sarah didn't need to be told twice. She dropped the phone, grabbed the children from their beds, and fled the house. To this day, Sarah has no explanation for the whispering voice she heard that night. Was it a ghost, a figment of her imagination, or something even more sinister? Whatever the truth may be, one thing is for sure. Sarah's experience serves as a chilling reminder that some houses hold secrets best left undisturbed. Chapter 4. Daniel and the Coordinates of Fear. Our final story takes us to the bustling metropolis of New York City, where a man named Daniel received a series of phone calls that sent him on a terrifying scavenger hunt through the city's underbelly. Daniel was a struggling writer living a hand-to-mouth existence in a cramped Brooklyn apartment. One night, as he was wrestling with a particularly nasty case of writer's block, his phone rang. The voice on the other end was deep and distorted, speaking in a slow, deliberate cadence. 34.05, negative 73.51, the voice said. "Go there." Daniel was taken aback. It was a set of coordinates, but he had no idea what they meant or why someone would be giving them to him. He considered hanging up, but something about the voice, a strange mix of urgency and menace, made him hesitate. "Who is this?" Daniel asked, his voice trembling slightly, but the only response he got was a dial tone. The call had ended as abruptly as it had begun. Intrigued and more than a little creeped out, Daniel decided to investigate. He pulled up Google Maps on his laptop and entered the coordinates. To his surprise, they led to a small, abandoned park in the heart of Queens. Now I know what you're thinking. "Shane, you're going to tell us he went to the park, right? You bet your sweet bippy I am." Daniel, driven by a mixture of curiosity and morbid fascination, decided to see what awaited him at the coordinates. He hopped on the subway, his mind racing with possibilities. As he approached the park, the once bustling city streets gave way to an eerie silence. The park itself was deserted, shrouded in shadows cast by the flickering streetlights. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest as he walked deeper into the park, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. And then he saw it. Hanging from a tree branch illuminated by the pale moonlight was a single white rose. As Daniel approached the rose, his phone rang again. It was the same distorted voice, sending chills down his spine. "You shouldn't have come!" the voice hissed. "Now it's too late!" Panic surged through Daniel. He turned to run, but he was met with a blinding light. When Daniel regained consciousness, he was lying in a hospital bed. The doctors told him he had been found unconscious in the park, suffering from exposure and dehydration. They had no explanation for the strange phone calls or the rose, and as for the mysterious voice, it never contacted Daniel again. And there you have it, folks. 4 terrifying tales of phone calls from the void. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who loves a good scare. And tell me in the comments, have you ever received a phone call that made your blood run cold? I'll feature the creepiest stories in a future episode. Until next time, don't answer unknown numbers after midnight. You never know who or what is on the other end.